Hello, everyone. This is Lisa Levinson from In Defense of Animals, and I'd like to welcome you to our Sustainable Activism webinar. This one is with Dr. Will Tuttle, who you can see in the view here, and the title of this is it's 10 Keys to Staying Positive when Facing Animal Abuse. So I think that's something we can all use, and I'm looking forward to this webinar myself. I want to do a couple of announcements before we get started. One is that if you're in the Los Angeles area, we have a workshop coming up soon, this weekend on the 8th, and it is the Managing Compassion Fatigue and Grief. We did a webinar of this recently, but we have an in-person workshop with Dr. Judy Sheppel, and that will be this Saturday. We also have on the 13th, Ray Sikora is going to be our guest for the Vegan Spirituality Online Gathering, which happens once a month. And then our very next webinar will be with Dave Rubin, and this will be a nonviolent communications webinar, how to handle or manage anger, which is another emotion we certainly deal with as animal activists. That will be on the 17th of September, and on the 19th of September, our Vegan Spirituality Retreat, that's our 6th annual event of that kind, will be in Philadelphia featuring Victoria Moran, author of Main Street Vegan and the Good Karma Diet. That will be happening in Philly on the 19th, and for any information about all of these events, you can go to idausa.org/events. And I will go ahead and type that in the chat box so everyone can have that link available to them. That's an easy way to stay up to date on all the events we're doing to help activists. And we also have a one-on-one service that we're letting the world know, especially all of our devoted activists, that we have a helpline or a mentor line that's dedicated specifically to you to help you with emotional, spiritual, and also self-care issues that come up as around being an activist. So this is something that I'll also put in the chat box, but the website for that is idausa.org/helpline. So we hope you can use that service. It's really there for you, and it's a great way to get individual attention for any sorts of issues or conflicts or concerns that you're having regarding your work to help animals. So without any further ado, I'd be very honored to introduce Dr. Tuttle, who I've collaborated with on many events, and I'm just so grateful to him for joining us for this webinar. I want to give, for those of you who don't know him, a little background. Let's see. He is, hold on one quick second. So Dr. Will Tuttle, he's the author of the acclaimed bestseller, The World Peace Diet, which is a recipient of the Courage of Conscience Award. He's the creator of Silver Wellness and Advocacy Training Programs and co-author of Vegan Palooza, the largest online vegan event in history. A vegan since 1980 and former Zen monk, he has created 8 CD albums of uplifting original piano music. The co-founder of Circle of Compassion, he is a frequent radio, television, and online presenter and writer. With his spouse, Madeline, a Swiss visionary artist, he presents over 100 lectures, workshops, and concerts annually throughout North America and Europe. Dr. Tuttle can be reached at worldpeacediet.com. So this is the moment we've all been waiting for. I'm going to introduce Dr. Will Tuttle, so please, Will, join us.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Lisa. And I'd like to, I guess you all have I'm kind of new at this. I'm doing a PowerPoint with this webinar. And so I guess Lisa will put that up, and I'll be able to go to the first slide here.
Yes, and one detail, just to let you know, so just to let all of you know, I'll be doing some of the logistics in the background. So as I go ahead and turn the PowerPoint over to Will, you may not see my face, but I will be here answering the chats and be participating as well. So I'm going to go ahead and I will also send you a link. It looks like some of you received the link for this, and then we'll go ahead and open the presentation. Wonderful. Okay, thank you so much. And if you have any questions, feel free you can chat with me directly and I'll respond. Okay?
All right, great. So thanks. And as Lisa said, the presentation that I'll be making here for the next, whatever it is, maybe 20 or 30 minutes before we open it up for questions, is focusing on 10 keys to staying positive facing animal abuse. So this is something I think that all of us deal with if we're in the movement for animal liberation or animal protection. And it can be, I know in my case, excruciating to be aware of the violence towards animals and to see that so many people don't care about that. And so the question comes up, how can we be effective advocates in terms of helping animals? Also, how can we have lives ourselves that are joyful and fulfilling and happy and peaceful and so forth, especially when we seem like we're the only ones who are aware of what's really going on in the world, and other people either are not aware or do not want to be aware, and they resist our efforts to help bring more compassion and freedom and peace and justice into the world. So I'm hearing a little bit of noise in the background. Lisa, just let me know if there's anything that I should change. Otherwise, I'm going to just keep going. All right?
Yes, please keep going. I'll see if I can help with that.
Okay. Okay, great. So good. I'll go ahead to the first slide here, which is something. Basically, this is the underlying foundational understandings before we jump into the 10 keys. And the basic idea I want to emphasize at the beginning is that all of us are born into a hurting culture, and we're all wounded by this in some way or other. None of us escapes the wounding of being born into a society that is basically oriented around killing millions of animals every day for food and for other products. And even if we're raised in a vegan family, which probably none of us probably were actually, but we're raised where other people are doing this all around us, and typically it's our families, and every institution in our society is encouraging that. So as those of you who have read the World Peace Diet know, I've written a lot about this, but basically what that does essentially is shut down for us as individuals and also for us as a society our natural capacities of wisdom and compassion, and essentially create relationships based on domination of animals and of each other, of the earth, of exploitation and abuse of other living beings. And this is a ritualized learning that we go through from the time we're little infants. So it gets its talons into us, its claws in a sense, into us very deeply, very early on. And it can make it difficult for us actually to feel at home in a benevolent universe, part of an unfolding of life, and with a sense of meaning and authenticity to our lives, because we're taught from the time we're little kids in many ways that our purpose is to consume and to look at others with eyes that reduces them to objects, to be manipulated or used for our purposes, and to compete, to be competitive with other human beings. So all of these things really in many ways work against our sense of solidarity and being connected with each other and with the earth and with animals. And so even when we go vegan, which is a fabulous accomplishment in our society, I think the foundation really of happiness for ourselves and for others to be able to live our lives with our actions in alignment with our values. However, we still have plenty of challenges, and in some ways it can be even harder for us because we're the ones who, in a sense, have been born again. We have this second birth, right, as a vegan, into a whole new world that people who are still eating animal food can't really even comprehend. The sense of responsibility that can go with that, and a sense of needing to somehow save or protect these animals and the earth and people from the violence inherent in animal agriculture and eating animal-based foods and harming animals on the massive scale that we're doing that in every way. So we see in many ways that people are, that our friends and neighbors and colleagues and so forth, are laboring under an enormous weight of indoctrination, but we should be aware that we haven't escaped from that ourselves on some level. So there's, therefore, I think it's helpful to be aware that there are stages in veganism. When we go vegan, it's not like an all or nothing thing. As we go vegan and we get more experience and understanding and mature in our development, emotionally and spiritually and psychologically and socially, we become more, I think, more effective as advocates, hopefully, and more effective in living our lives happily and effectively. So I'll just say briefly, I think there's maybe 3 basic stages. The beginning stage, which is very awkward and difficult, where we're still learning how to eat healthy vegan foods, and we're learning how to respond to people socially and how to respond to the arguments or to the rationalizations that people have. And we maybe feel uncomfortable trying to respond. We feel like we don't know enough. We don't know how to perhaps really eat healthy vegan food. And so it's a difficult time. I think it's important that we hopefully get some mentors and we are able to read and learn enough that we can advance to stage 2, which very often is the angry vegan stage or the outraged vegan stage, where we're upset a lot because now we have made progress and we're able to eat healthy vegan foods that we know are delicious and nutritious and sustainable and compassionate and everything else. But other people don't want to hear about this. They make excuses and so forth. And so now we're frustrated, we're outraged, we're angry. We can very easily get depressed, fall into despair and sadness. Maybe we watch videos that are haunting us, the images, and no one else wants to see them. I think actually probably 95% of the people who watch these videos of undercover violence towards animals are vegans because we're the only ones that are willing to watch these things. Other people would rather not know. So that's a difficult stage. Some people, some of us as vegans avoid that somewhat or perhaps move into it later. I call it the closet vegan stage, where we just don't even want to talk about it anymore. We just kind of hide the fact that we're vegans so that we're not either ridiculed or angry or yelling at people. And so I think both the beginning stage and the angry or closet middle stage are stages that pretty much all of us go through, but I think it's important to keep going on the journey beyond those stages to what we could perhaps call deep veganism. And I wouldn't say there's just one stage here. I'd say there's, who knows how many stages we can deepen our understanding. But I think when we get into the deep veganism stages, we begin to really connect with joy and compassion and freedom and a sense of creativity and being able to celebrate our lives, even in the face of the violence that we see around us. And I think it's very important for us to realize that we have this capacity and that it's absolutely the best thing we can do for animals is for ourselves to connect with the inner joie de vivre, in a sense, the joy of living. That is really the core of life on planet Earth. And the animals themselves, if they were not enslaved in the prison, when we see them, I think with a clear eye in nature, they are celebrating their lives. So I'm going to go into all these ideas more in depth, but this is the basic foundation. Also, as part of that, I think it's important to remember that we're on this planet for a limited time, that we only have one lifetime, and we have probably maybe more than one lifetime, but this particular lifetime that we're in now, there's a few decades, right? We live maybe 80 or 90 years or 100 or 110, but it's not that long. And so what's the actual power that we have? The power is when we understand that we're just here for a few years to use the time that we have effectively, not to waste it by being distracted by things that aren't really important, and to do the best we can to cultivate our inner resources, because the outer life that we have really flows from the inner. So I'm going to be talking about the inner resources that we can cultivate, which make us more happy and effective and able to bring the vegan message to people because we're living it. That's one of the foundational teachings here, I think. Gandhi summed it up very well in the saying that he supposedly said, which is that we are called really to be the change that we would like to see in the world. And so veganism is very clearly a calling to live in a whole different way than our culture is living. It's based on ahimsa, which is the ancient Sanskrit teaching of nonviolence. The idea is that we will never be happy or find happiness ourselves if we're harming others for our own benefit. We're raised in a society that's based on doing that on a massive scale to animals, to hungry people, to workers, to ecosystems, to future generations, to just hungry people and their children and enemies and so forth. So the whole idea is to question all of this very deeply and to turn our gaze, in a sense, to the eternal truth that we see always being reminded to us by great sages and saints and mystics throughout the ages. Veganism in many ways is a restatement of the wisdom traditions of our planet, but it's not an abstract theology or an abstract way of living. This is concrete, but it does have foundational principles that are eternal and that go beyond the whatever the religion of our society happens to be that we're brought up in. So another important thing I want to just mention is to question all of the official narratives of our society. All of us have been, from the time we're little infants, injected with stories that are told by our parents and teachers and by the media and the government and so forth and corporations. Of course, there's the protein story and the calcium story and the human superiority stories and many other stories. And one of them actually is materialism. It's a story that is injected very deeply. And by materialism, I don't merely mean being materialistic in the sense of grasping, trying to get more stuff for ourselves. What I mean is, in the philosophical sense, materialism is the philosophy or the foundational orientation in the world that matter is the only reality, that consciousness is a product of matter. And so I would say essentially that this is a very devastating religion. It's a religion. It's a faith-based religion. We're taught to believe this. And it's not true. I mean, I think essentially we will awaken to the fact, and this is happening more and more, that consciousness is foundational. That what we are essentially is consciousness, and out of consciousness emerges the so-called material world, which is, as we understand through physics, not as material as we actually think, that there's much more energy, and energy is a product of consciousness or is affected profoundly by consciousness, arising within consciousness, essentially. So a big part, I think, of veganism should be not merely to stay along at the same level as our society in believing in materialism and scientism, which are really products of animal agriculture. It's important to understand that when you're raised in a society, as we've been, where we, with every meal, learn to look at living beings who are conscious as matter, as just, you sell them by the pound. They're just things. They're just flesh and blood, and that's all there is. If you do that long enough, for a few thousand years, you'll create a materialistic society, a society that looks at everything, as human beings, and also and everything as just merely matter. So we have to really question that, I think, if we're going to be effective advocates. And it's beautiful to do that, because I think when we do, we begin to connect with a deeper truth that we are eternal consciousness. We're here on this planet for a short time. Perhaps the planet is sending out messages in some way, asking for help, and we've responded, perhaps unconsciously. Anyway, now we're remembering, we're waking up, we're here for a few years, we have a job to do, we can work together. Very important for us in the vegan movement to honor each other, to respect each other, to realize that we're all have a certain unique part to play. And so the question is, what is our purpose? And I think when we deepen our connection with the fact that what we are is infinite, eternal consciousness that was never born and will never die. We have a vehicle that was born and will die, but what we are is the consciousness that makes us possible. And then we do have a purpose, and that we're here essentially to bring our unique gifts to the situation. And that as we do that effectively, we can begin to be effective not only in our outer world, but we can begin to actually connect at a deeper level to the joy that we are. And it's a never-ending spiritual path or psychological path or intellectual, emotional growth path, however you choose to look at it. but we have enormous possibilities for awakening and blessing each other and helping each other to do that. And the greatest way we can bless others, of course, in this process is to deepen our own practice and then serve the movement and animals and each other by giving our piece. It's like we have this big jigsaw puzzle, and each one of us has a piece. And the puzzle's not going to go all together unless each one of us puts our piece in that puzzle. And that's what we're called to do, and not to try to put somebody else's piece in, to find our own unique piece. So that's where our intuition comes in, and these other things I'm going to be talking about. So the next thing I'd like to talk about are the actual 10 keys. Meditation is, I think, a primary one, and I don't mean that. I'll talk about that in a minute. Having a morning routine that is empowering. I want to talk about that a little bit more. Cultivating a positive mental environment. This is something we really are called to do, I think, on an ongoing basis in the face of the massive negativity that is being essentially thrown at us all the time. Connecting with nature is also very important in an authentic way. I'll talk more about that. Creative expression is another one. Exercise and rest. These are two also very important aspects of being happy and effective as advocates in the world. Cultivating supportive relationships is crucial. Finding our own meaningful action in the world. Being conscious about our consumption is critical. This is really what veganism is. It's about being conscious about what we're consuming. And then finally, cultivating gratitude, which is essentially the foundation of love. Love and gratitude are essentially in a dance together. And veganism in many ways is the expression of love and caring. So gratitude is also a foundational part of that process. So I'll show actually this little diagram I made, because the idea is, I think it's really very kind of left-brained to put everything in these in sort of an outline form. It's ridiculous. I mean, I just wrote it in this way. It's more of everything is connected, and everything is connected. I mean, our meditation is connected to our morning ritual, to cultivating gratitude, to creative expression, to meaningful action, and creative expression is connected to nature. And I mean, everything is connected to everything. Everything is connected, and we have to understand that. We don't have compartments in our lives. We are whole beings. We're living our lives. It appears moment after moment, but essentially there isn't any moment after moment. There's just this moment. And as we unfold our lives, it's important, I think, to just always bear in mind, as best we can, that we are a being that every dimension of our being is connected. So the more we put attention into developing one aspect of ourselves, that will bless and help us develop other aspects of ourselves. So this is the underlying picture that I want to share with you, this slide, but I'm going to go on from here. I think that makes the basic point. I remember when I got my PhD at Berkeley, I was able to take a class with Fritjof Capra, who wrote The Turning Point and the Tao of Physics, and it was great. He refused to make outlines. He would just create these, kind of like this, these graphs and show how everything, these sketches, these illustrations that show how everything is connected. And I think that's an important counterbalance to the way we're taught to think about things in our society, which is, again, based on domination and hierarchy. So meditation. So I've got these things sort of in this way, but remember, it's all connected. Think of it like it's a web of relations. So meditation, just briefly, I'm going to try to just go through these without taking too much time, but first of all, don't think that it's anything exotic. Meditation is not exotic. It's a natural human activity. It's exotic in our society because our culture is unusually disconnected from the inner world. We are unusually preoccupied and frantic about accomplishing things in the outer world and disconnected from our inner world. And so our culture is unusually, has been, I think it's changing in a positive way, but it has been very unusually suspicious, I would say, of meditation, of listening within, of not doing something, just sitting quietly and reflecting and being open. The whole emphasis has been on action and doing and accomplishing and so forth, and changing others, changing myself. And yet we don't know, if we don't have meditation as a foundation, and our intuition, which really develops out of meditation, and all of our actions are merely the product of our cultural program. So it's just the cultural program working through everybody and creating more and more mayhem and violence and disasters. So that's why meditation is so crucial. It's slowing down. Yeah, is somebody asking me something? No, everything okay? Okay.
No.
So basically, meditation is, I think the reason it's so helpful is that it's basically the exact opposite of the kind of mind we're trained to have in our society, which is a mind that's always somewhere in the past or the future, not in the present, and always trying to change and so forth. So it's basically just being alert and awake and present and relaxed in this moment, being aware of our breathing, being aware of what's happening, being aware of our thoughts and feelings. And so it's a natural human capacity. And I have down here KNOW, know, versus KNST. Okay, that's the basic thing. KNOW, it's like thinking of two different radio stations that you can tune into. You can tune in, most of us are tuned into KNST. KNST stands for, NST stands for non-stop thinking. KNST. So we're tuned into the non-stop thinking channel. We're just thinking without stopping. And it's just, anyone who's basically made an effort to meditate knows how powerful the flood of thoughts is. It just goes. The problem with that is that it just reinforces ourselves as a fundamentally separate self. We reinforce all the stories that we've internalized by our society. And if we're watching things or negative things, it's not a good idea, because the nonstop thinking will be negative, and it will be basically creating negative feelings, and it'll be painful. So it's important for us to be able to stop that. Meditation is one way, a very powerful way to stop that, practicing that, and tuning into another station, KNOW. The reason that I like this word is that it's two things, right? It's knowing. This is a true knowing, intuitive knowing, and it's also KNOW, the now, right now. It's just being present now, being aware of the breathing right now, letting go of being overly preoccupied with what other people did and what they should have done, or what I hope they don't do, or what I should have done, or what I hope I don't do, or maybe I will do, or this whole ongoing drama that we get wrapped up in is always not in the present moment. So this is a foundation for us it's very important for us as animal activists to understand how our minds work and understand how we've been programmed, and how in many ways we've been forced into mentalities against our will by this society, which is based on violence and exploitation of female animals. And the sacred feminine is the capacity to be receptive and be open and to care, to hold that space of caring and loving. That's what meditation is about. It's caring and loving for myself, for others, for this precious moment, for the sacred moment that every moment is. So this is why if we're going to be liberating animals, we have to liberate this animal. We have to liberate the animal that we are, the being that we are, and all the program we've gone through, the cage we've been put into. We've been put in a cage in this society, and we can escape from the cage. But the way we do that is by discipline, by being aware of our minds, not just allowing ourselves to not question the official stories that are living inside our own minds, and so to stop that internal dialogue and connect with the inner silence. So there's many different kinds of meditations. I have listed some of them here. There's compassion meditations, loving kindness meditations that I think are helpful, which is basically just radiating love and compassion to others and to ourselves and abiding in that state. We have the prayer circle for animals. If anyone's interested, or if you know all about that already, to go to World Peace. You can find it from worldpeacetalk.com, but also it's Circle of Compassion, actually circleofcompassion.org. And we have actually, I think, quite a few people, hundreds of people from around the world every day at noon. We all take, wherever we are, we take a moment or a minute and just send compassion to animals, to create an inner field of compassion for animals. And I think this is something that we can all contribute to. We can all do that wherever we are. We don't have to be a part of an official circle. We can just do it on our own, but it's kind of nice to do it together if we'd like to. And to remember that we can build a non-material world, a world of consciousness, of kindness and compassion, and that as we keep our thoughts aligned in that direction, that we give reality to that. We actually build that up. There's another practice called taking and sending. Some of you may have heard of this. It's a Buddhist practice. It's rather advanced. I don't really recommend it unless you've already know what you're doing. But it's basically a meditation where we take in the sufferings of others, of animals, of hungry people, whatever, and we transmute them within ourselves and then send them out as blessings or as kindness, joy, and freedom and love and peace into the world. So that's not, in other words, we're not just sending love, compassion, joy, and peace. We're actually inhaling the dark agonies and suffering, transmuting them, and sending them out. It's a great practice, but I think you better practice first, so you don't just take it in and have a hard time converting that. But it is a good practice when you're ready. We also have the four Viharas, an ancient Buddhist practice originally going back to India. The four Viharas, Vihara means abode, as in four abodes, the four true aspects of our true home: love, compassion, joy, and peace. And that's actually created a guided meditation based on that. You can see it on our website or go to iTunes if you're interested and download that. A lot of people who are vegan activists actually do that practice every day because it's just as we cultivate love, compassion, joy, and peace and let those radiate from our heart, from our mind into the world, then we begin to find that those qualities begin to get stronger and stronger in us so that it takes less effort for us when normally, for example, we would see something that would make us frustrated or angry. Instead of yelling or getting hurt or upset, we naturally begin to respond with kindness and compassion to the situation rather than adding fuel to the fire and creating even more violence. So it's important for us, I think, to do the inner work, to take time every day to do the inner work, to practice, to make an effort. And so that's what we can do. The four Viharas is one. The other one we created recently is World Peace Meditations. This is also, these are both available on CDs. World Peace Meditations is a new one. And I think I have one here. Yeah, this is it right here. The World Peace Meditation. Yeah, we have them both. But anyway, this was a new one. It has guided meditations. One is on intuition development. One is on relationships. One is on world peace. One is on animals. And one is on earth healing, radiant health, abundance, joy, and gratitude. So those are things we can actually do as well. We can practice these meditations, these are guided meditations, and to help us purify our consciousness, to reconnect at a deeper level with the beauty and the power and the truth of our true nature. That's the foundation of this whole thing, is to realize that at a deeper level we are connected to an ocean of joy and freedom and liberation and power and love. And the more that we open to that, the more we allow that to come through us, the more effective we'll be as individuals, and as a movement, I think we'll become more effective as well. There's this idea of samadhi, that's just both absolute and positive samadhi. It's an important point. I'm just going to say it briefly. When our mind gets very quiet, if we meditate for a while, for maybe a few years, and we get good at it, then we'll be able to gradually enter into deeper states where the mind is really peaceful and quiet. Absolute samadhi refers to that state of consciousness when we're not doing something, right? We're just sitting quietly. Positive samadhi is when we come out of that meditation and we begin to act in the world. We begin to talk to people and cook and clean and whatever we need to do, and we maintain a similar state of inner peace and harmony while we're active. So the whole idea is that meditation is not something only done while you're sitting in a chair or on a cushion meditating. This is something we can bring into our daily life through activities. And it's important, I have a couple more things here, to realize that mindfulness is a big part of meditation. When we are living a meditative life, we're living a mindful life, we're being as aware as possible because we're practicing awareness as we are sitting quietly, and then we bring that same attitude while we're eating. So veganism is mindful eating, essentially mindful consuming and mindful speech and so forth. It also connects us to our intuition. It also connects us to the capacity for spiritual healing. This is a huge subject I would love to talk about. One of the reasons I have not been to a doctor in 40 years is that, my wife Madeline and I practice spiritual healing. And I think more and more of us can do that because we can heal ourselves and we can create a consciousness where where these things don't even come up, essentially. We don't have to. That's important to remember, but we have to practice every day. This is not something that is luck or You just sort of hope for the best. This is an inner discipline of understanding, of making an effort to understand who we truly are, what we truly are, and which is that we're not the effect of a physical world, but we are essentially the same as the source of life, which is consciousness, which is eternal, and to keep reminding ourselves of that, remembering that, and bringing that quality of consciousness to bear in our daily lives, in our relationships with people, and in what we're doing. And then finally, the idea that we can have meditative activities that we can do. Journaling is great. For example, you can just write and just see what comes through. Journaling with a non-dominant hand, for example, writing if you're right-handed, writing with the left hand, see what comes out. This can be a meditative activity. Dance, movement, music, art. There's lots of different ways we can actually engage in meditative activities. Sports can be the same thing. So these things all be very healing, very helpful in creating a foundation. This is very important to understand this, and to have a regular practice of meditation. I think it's very, very helpful in being an effective advocate and being really happy in our lives, being positive in the face of the violence that we're seeing around us. Having a morning routine, I think, is essential. Getting up out of the morning, what is your very first thought? What is your very first feeling? We have control over this. We actually, there's an old saying, to stand porter at the door of thought, that idea. So just to naturally cultivate in an aware and gentle way with ourselves, that our very first thought, we just are happy. We just give thanks for another day of infinite possibilities for good things to come to help bless the world, that we can be a vehicle to help bring blessings to the world and kindness and love, and give thanks for the opportunity of a human life. This may be our last day. We don't know. So make the most of it. Have a day that really brings to bear the full energy and power of who we are as beings to that day, and take responsibility for our day. So the first thought is very important. Take time to, I have here clear sinuses and digestion. This is really helpful, I think, just to, like there's that neti pot, I don't use that, but just clearing our sinuses with water, having some, good, something to drink. I usually just have some purified water. Some people put some lemon in. Having a bowel movement first thing, you can train yourself to do that. Just do it. And, it's not difficult. And just tell yourself that's what you do, and just do it. I mean, squatting, I have to say squatting makes it a lot easier. So you should have a toilet you can squat on or something to help you do that. But just, cleanse first thing. Then I think it's great to go outside, connect with the earth, do some exercise, some stretching. At some point, very helpful yoga, whatever it is, Tai Chi, something. Connect with the earth and with heaven. Remember who we are. Remember that we're connected to the earth. We're connected to heaven. Earth represents the infinite yin or receptive power that can help us open to our inner wisdom. Heaven represents the infinite yang, power of the sky, the infinite possibilities, the creative power that we can also bring to earth, that we're like trees, we're bridges between heaven and earth. And then do meditation, the practice of meditation, of inner listening, and studying, journaling, creative expression. I like to play the piano after meditating. Something, where we can just allow ourselves the possibility to connect deeply. Some people say, well, I just have too many responsibilities. I've got young children, or blah, 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 whatever it is. Get up early. I mean, this is a priority. We don't have the luxury of having excuses. Get up early. Get up in that extra hour early, so it's dark out and you're running around. I mean, I'm running around here in the neighborhood. I'm the only one running when it's totally dark out and freezing. But I love it, because this is my life. And the more we give of ourselves to our life, the more will come back. And the idea, of course, is to find your unique way of doing this. So, and remember that old saying, in every day, the most important things, if we want to make sure we do something every day, do it early in the day, because once the day starts, you may not get around to it. So these are why I think these are very important things: meditation, contemplative study or spiritual study, journaling, exercise, stretching, connecting, all these things. Do them first. Get up early and really create a foundation for your day. This is really important. And this foundation will last the whole day. It creates the foundation for your life in the very first hour or two. Okay, so that's morning routine, and then we have cultivating a positive mental environment. This is something that we can do consciously throughout the day. It's very important to remember that all of us have been and continue to be bombarded with negativity. So from the time we're little children, we've been bombarded with negativity. We've been told we're not good enough, and we're not going to make it, and we're not very smart, and we've been bullied by other kids perhaps, and shamed and abused. I mean, all of us have gone through this. This culture specializes in this, really. I mean, this is a herding culture, killing millions of animals. Animals are abused. Children are abused. We've been abused. And also we have media that just is flooding us with negativity. So it's very important for us to take responsibility for the inner quality of our own consciousness and make an effort to create a positive internal environment. I have down here affirmations and denials. Basically, what that means is to consciously affirm the truth, and remember this, that what I am is infinite consciousness. What I am is eternal. What I am is an expression of love in this world. What I am is of the nature of joy and gratitude. And deny, and if a thought comes in of fear or anger or frustration or jealousy or whatever it is, to just breathe and be aware. It's not about suppressing the thoughts, but being aware. That I mentioned it earlier, standing porter at the door of thought. Our thoughts are constantly coming in through the door. Which ones are we going to just say, oh yeah, come on in? If it's a thought that is not in our best interest, a thought that's harmful to us and to others, to see it and reflect on it and let it go and replace it with the truth. We can do that. And if we take responsibility for the quality of our consciousness, then we begin to take responsibility for the quality of the consciousness on our planet at the only place we can do it, which is with ourselves. We wish other people would be nice or wish other people would be compassionate. It starts with us. So the more we do that ourselves consciously, the more we will be effective in helping others to do the same thing. Remembering, what am I? What is that I am? That's the big question. And don't settle for the idea that what I am is a physical body or a name that will die. Remember the glory, the light, the truth, the love that we truly are. Connect with that authentically. It's important to realize that this cultivating a positive mental environment is not something you can do without meditating. If we don't meditate and we try to do this, then pretty soon it's shallow. We have to meditate so that we actually experience in silence the truth of this stuff. So these two really go together. It's very important to understand that just being positive without meditating creates this shallowness. So it's very important to do these together. We're not just suppressing negativity. We're actually remembering and understanding the deeper level of being that we truly are, and authentically connecting with that. Okay, so that's, then we have connecting with nature. Basically, just to remember that all of us very often find ourselves in artificial environments, artificial lighting, sounds, everything else. So take initiative to take time every day to connect with nature, whatever way is meaningful for you, gardening, hiking, sunning yourself, grounding, taking your shoes off. I think is really helpful. There's a whole new thing about how healing it is just to take your shoes off and connect with the earth. All four elements. The sun is a wonderful thing to connect with. Get in the sun. If we're eating healthy food without hydrogenated fats, you don't have to worry, really. I mean, gosh, we get in the sun all the time. The skin cancer is really from toxic foods, hydrogenated oils, and animal foods. Healthy foods, clean water, purified water, and nature, they're here to bless us. Connect with animals celebrating. Take time to really look at the trees and the flowers and the bushes and nature around us. Connect it, create a space of love. This is the idea of creating a garden. Wherever we are, we can have some plants growing, and we can grow our own food. We can create a space of love where we're growing our own food. We can create a vegan haven wherever we are. Maybe it's only one room in one house, but it's a vegan haven, and that room is vegan. And there's no violence. There's no animal products allowed. And we can expand that. It can be a whole acre or more, whatever you can get. And people honor that when they come in. So connecting with nature, celebrating nature is a very important part of this whole thing. And let's see, I should go a little faster. I'm realizing the time is flying by. Creative expression, again, every day connecting with nature, every day doing something creative, art, music, writing, teaching, speaking, movement, blogging, something that you feel connects you with your creative side. This is a great way to relieve stress, to connect with humor, to connect with joy, with abundance, with healing, with spirituality, with intuition. All these things are connected. And again, the foundation of all these things is really the same. It's this, they're all connected. Meditation is quieting the mind, getting into the present moment, and just seeing what comes through. Exercise and rest. This is very important. Exercise is an enormous way. It's a great way to build energy and to dissipate stress. So just running or doing something aerobic, whatever, bouncing on a trampoline or biking or whatever. Connecting with nature when you exercise, I think it's fabulous. That's the way I like to do it. Celebratory exercise, dancing, jumping, stretching, of course, yoga can be very helpful. Strength building type of exercise where you're really working your muscles, aerobic exercise. And try to do all three of these if you can every day. And then rest is essential. Really, I mean, some of us just work too long, or we don't create good situations for resting. We have a television in the bedroom or some ridiculous thing. I mean, just, don't have these forces, these force fields. Shut off the Wi-Fi, create darkness in the room, don't have light around, minimize input, don't watch a bunch of horrible things and then go right to bed. Have a ritual. It's kind of like the very first thing in the morning, have an uplifting, powerful, conscious program. Do the same thing before you go to bed. Create some kind of a ritual or some kind of a conscious awareness that you're winding down and now getting ready to go into the other world and meditate some more, perhaps reflect on the day, and know that your last thought before you go to sleep is gratitude for this day, and have that sense of gratitude. Be aware of your dreams. You can do dream yoga where you're conscious in your dreams that you're dreaming. Realize that this world is a dream. In many ways, just like the other world is a dream. To work with our dreams for insights is also can be very helpful as well. Be aware of the quality of your sleep. Don't eat before you go to bed. Give some space there. I mean, these are basic things, but they're very important to live a healthy life. And to be happy, you have to have a foundation. And we're not taught any of this stuff. I mean, we don't teach any of this in school. We teach the opposite. So all these things are essential. I don't have enough time. I'm sorry. I can see there's not enough time. But I still have a few more things I really want to emphasize here. Supportive relationships is really important. Right association. They talk about the Buddha's Eightfold Path, right understanding, right action, right effort, right speech, right mindfulness, right livelihood, and so forth. One of the ones that, probably the very first one, is right association. To really associate yourself with people who are supportive of where you want to be, and that's really very helpful. I mean, I think when we get strong enough, we can be with people who normally would be very devastating and destructive to our growth. But especially in the beginning, we can easily get trampled by relationships with other people. So it's very important to choose people, to be a mentor for people, to be a mentee, to find people you look up to who are noble, who are honorable, who are wise and compassionate in your eyes, who have something to teach you, and learn from them. Model their behavior, model what they're doing, try to understand how you can reflect the quality. Look at the qualities. What kind of qualities do you want to have in your life? What kind of people do you know that have those qualities? What can you learn? We're here on this planet to learn from each other. So relationships are critical in this whole thing. So find like-minded people in the flesh if possible. I mean, it's nice to have online groups and online chat groups and whatever, Facebook groups, but really to be able to talk to people face to face, to go on walks, to have meals together, to create communities of caring, to create vegan communities, of course, is wonderful. I wish we had more vegan communities, temporary vegan communities. Start a meetup group in your area if there isn't one. Start a veg fest in your area if there isn't one. Create opportunities for healthy, supportive vegan relationships. The more we do that, the more this community will grow. Our friends in Cincinnati, Mark Stroud and Anna Ferguson, are beautiful examples of that. They created a vegan yoga studio and vegan World Peace Diet study groups, and a lot of people are doing this, but they're pioneering this and showing you can create huge communities that give people the opportunity to learn and grow and thrive, and we can all contribute to those relationships, but it's up to us to do it, not to look to other people to do that. We can do that ourselves. We can build those communities and those relationships. Loving, and also remember this. I mean, people who study relationships and like marriages or other significant relationships say that basically you can guarantee a marriage is going to end in divorce if the number of positive, loving things they say and the number of negative, critical things they say is about equal. If it's about equal, 1-to-1, then for sure they're not going to last. If it's 5-to-1, in other words, 5 positive, kind, loving, thankful statements to every one statement that they make to their partner that's somewhat critical of them, they may last, maybe not. It's really a threshold that's 10-to-1. In other words, we should be actually expressing ourselves in kind, loving, appreciative ways 10 times to every one time we're questioning them in a critical way, our partner or people in our life. So really, to just, like James Taylor said, shower the people you love with love. Really to be loving and appreciative and kind in your speech and gestures to people who are close to you, but also everybody. The more we put that out there, the more it grows. That's what veganism is. Veganism is love. It's caring. It's kindness. And it's not just theoretical. It's actually living it. And it's not just living it with animals who are abstract. It's with the people in our lives, and especially with the people that maybe are challenging to us. So I know, it's nice to be self-righteously angry and say they don't deserve it, and that is not the path of veganism. The path of veganism is to understand that we've all been wounded, and that the wounds that we have are getting triggered by their wounds, and that ultimately we're called to be loving and kind, even in the face of people who we don't think they deserve it. They do. I mean, cows and pigs and chickens certainly do, and other human beings who have been wounded and shamed and blamed and harmed and shut down as children also deserve our kindness and compassion. So our relationships really need to model what veganism is. Okay, so just a couple more here. Thank you so much for all of you for your patience with this and for your attention. Meaningful actions, of course, this is the key thing. We're talking about action. So now we want to be effective vegan activists or advocates. So one thing that's important, one principle that's essential is that whatever negative feeling we have, maybe we see a video where we just have this excruciating feeling of sadness or despair or outrage at what we see happening in the world, and I totally understand that. I mean, that's natural to feel that way when we see the rainforest being devastated and poor animals being hurt and people starving, to turn that into action, to do something. And the action can be big, it can be something, whatever, it can be small. It can be just writing a letter to someone or talking or commit to something. To bring these feelings into action is a very healthy thing to do. There's a difference between outrage and anger also, because anger is basically a mentality of exclusion. It's saying, I'm going to exclude you from the sphere of my kindness and compassion. Veganism is inclusive. So we don't have the luxury to be angry anymore. And it's a mentality of exclusion. It is based on, it's what we do to animals. When we want to harm them, we exclude them. Then we can kill them and eat them. When we are angry with someone, we're also excluding them, essentially, from our kindness and caring and sensitivity and understanding. And that's a non-vegan way of living. And again, we have to have discipline. We have to practice also during the other times. So when something comes up that would make us angry, practice loving kindness, practice the 4 Viharas and so forth. And we will find we naturally will, instead of yelling, we'll laugh. And we'll say, oh yeah, I know what you mean, and we'll be able to respond in a way we can be outraged, which is not shutting someone out, but anger is doing that. So it's important for us, I think, to question the inner arising of our emotions and purify them. We can do it. Okay, so find your unique piece of the puzzle. In other words, if you find yourself working within the movement in some way, but you don't really like what you're doing, then try something else. What is your unique thing that you're here to do to contribute to help making a better world for animals and for our planet? We're all here for a short time. Find what we can do and do it. And we each have unique gifts and strengths and abilities and talents to find what they are and present them. And if you're doing something you don't really like it, then try something else and use your intuition to connect through meditation with what that is. And don't be afraid to try other things. And also, who knows what is big? Some people want to do something big. We want to do a big thing and help the world a lot. Remember what Gandhi said? He said, it doesn't matter how big your action is. It matters that you do it with great love. In other words, it doesn't have to be a great action. Just do it with great love. Quality is more important than quantity. Whatever we do it as deeply as we can with as much love and consideration and awareness as possible. Then our action, whatever it is, it may seem like a tiny little action. We may die and everybody doesn't even know who I am. They think you're just nobody, That's, the Tao Te Ching says the greatest leader is one who, when the task is accomplished, the people say, we did it ourselves. The leader is invisible. The greatest person is the most invisible one. We have this delusion in the West that we have to be somehow big and famous to be getting anything done. And that's part of the wound of the society. So question all of these official stories. Conscious consuming. All right, first of all, eat well. Make sure, if you're a vegan activist, eat really high quality, good food. Grow your own, if possible. Buy it at the farmer's market. Organic, for sure. You don't want to be eating, you're not going to buy food and put a bunch of pesticides and herbicides and fungicides on it and then eat it. That's bad for the environment. It's bad for the internal environment. Unprocessed, really eat whole foods. Don't be buying foods that are processed, that have artificial chemicals, colors, and flavorings and things in them. That's not going to make, you're going to feel upset. You're going to feel more harmonious. So eat harmonious foods. Prepare the foods with love, with caring, with a sense of joy and gratitude, and try to know where the foods come from. I mean, it's really important, I think, if you can grow your own foods and plant your own tree with love, and then work with those trees and eat the fruits of those trees and those plants, those trees will tune into you as a unique being and you'll be fed. That's what we really should be getting back to, is growing our own food. We can all do that to some degree. I mean, we lived in an RV for 17 years. We at least grew our own sprouts and herbs. So live as best we can, eating really well. That's very important. That's the health insurance. So I don't have any health insurance. I mean, that's it. Drink well. Stay hydrated. Get plenty of liquids. Pure water. It's the best. Guard your gourd. Okay, another way we consume is media. What kind of media? Everything we're taking in. TV, radio, internet, movies, books, music, magazines. Be aware of everything we're bringing in. Be very conscious of what we're bringing in. Be very aware, this is something I really want to bring into my consciousness. And don't eat junk food. Don't eat junk food media. We're being bombarded by it. I have not had a TV for 40 years, and I am so delighted I have not had a TV in 40 years. It's just toxic. I wouldn't eat that toxic stuff. Also be aware of the inner consuming. In other words, what are our thoughts and feelings? We will acidify our tissues, not just with toxic food and drink, but with toxic thoughts and feelings. So again, that goes back to what I said earlier, to cultivate gratitude, joy, a sense of just happiness of being able to live this life and connect with that animals are suffering. We understand that enormously. Yes, we understand that. And we're doing the best we can to reduce that. And there are lots of animals and human beings who are celebrating their lives as well. There's both sides. There's a lot of celebration. We can feel great joy when we see birds singing. And even if we're in the city, there's wildlife everywhere. See the spiders who are spinning their webs. There's wildlife is everywhere. All right, the last one is cultivating gratitude, and this is basically the idea. Love is active, gratitude is receptive. So we're receiving love all the time. We wouldn't be living. Our heart is beating. We're not making our heart beat all the time. It's beating right now in our chest, in our breast, because some force loves us enough to give us this life. And we're here. It's a great gift to use. We don't know how long it's going to last. We have some time to use it as best we can. Take time every day, throughout the day, to cultivate a consciousness of gratitude and express gratitude to the trees, the people, all that you can, in any way you can. All right, so bless you all. I just was hoping to do that in 40 minutes, and now it's taken this long. So I'm not sure, Lisa, can we go ahead and take a few questions anyway?
Sure.
So,
Thanks, Will, and thank you so much for sharing everything that you did. I'm going to put my little cam on here so people can see me too. Hello, everyone. And Will, that was very motivating and inspiring. Thank you so much for going through all of the 10 keys with us. And we will go ahead and open this up for a Q&A. What happens during the Q&A is that folks can unmute themselves. So I'll go ahead and set that up.
Somebody just said
you can hear me? Hi,
yes.
Will. Hi, Lisa. It's Jerry.
Hi, Jay.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Anyways, Will, I really appreciated hearing you talking about trying to start off our morning every day with some time to ourselves, some perhaps meditation or stretching exercise is really important. I usually get up for work and just kind of hustle and bustle and don't give myself enough time, and I get to work feeling kind of flustered. So I think I'm going to try and do what you said, like get up an hour earlier. I really like that tip, and I appreciate the insight.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, that's a great thing to do. Get up a little earlier, and you'll have a whole day will go better. I hope you can hear me okay. Someone asked, how do you balance love and justice? And
good one.
I guess that's a huge one. I think, in the end, love wins. And it's, justice, of course, justice basically is an expression of love. And that's what it is. I mean, justice is an expression of love. Ultimately, it has to be. And it's an expression of compassion. It's an expression of that we don't take advantage of others and use them for ourselves and harm them for ourselves. So creating a situation so that that's true is it's based on loving kindness and compassion. That's the foundation of justice. But I think it's important to realize that justice is essential. We can't have peace without justice. We have to create context of justice. And veganism, really, the beauty of veganism is that it's both. I mean, this is it. It's both in both situations. I'll just maybe close with a little story. When I was at Sangwangsa Zen Monastery, I remember I was doing this 4 hours meditation a lot. We were more meditating a lot, and at one point, all the monks got a gift of everybody got a cake, and I remember it was kind of a neat thing to get a little cake, and everybody, all the monks had their own little wooden locker, and so I put my cake in a locker, in my locker, I mean, and I came back later, and one of the monks had taken it. It was gone, and so it was kind of like in my mind, the very first thought I had, it was just spontaneous, was I thought, wow, that's fantastic. Some lucky monk, I don't know who it was, not only had their own cake, and then they got to have a second one. That must have been so great. And I felt so happy that this other monk, whoever it was, got to have 2, And I didn't even have a thought that, gosh, I didn't get mine. I mean, it was so much nicer for me to just be glad that this other monk got his. So maybe he and some I think in the big picture, justice is assured. What it's up to us to do is to be loving and understanding, and I think when we do that, we not only make ourselves happy, we make the whole situation happier. And if we're angry and trying to have justice, we're really hurting ourselves, because when we're angry, we're only hurting ourselves. Really, it makes ourselves more toxic inside and on every level. Wow, there's a lot of things coming in.
There's a lot of questions, yeah. But Will, there's one person asked a question about how to handle people who say that they love animals and yet they are not practicing a vegan diet. So these are people who really just consider themselves animal lovers.
Well, I
And
I have a bumper sticker. You know, my bumper sticker. Well, a friend of mine actually made it, and I just love it. I guess you can make your own. It says, "You will have the right to say you love animals when you no longer eat them." That's basically it. I mean, you know, that bumper sticker answers it for me. You know, if someone says they love animals, they don't have a right to say they love animals if they're still eating them. I mean, they don't love animals. They can't say that. That's just absurd. That's like somebody saying they love, you know, a slave owner in 1820s saying, "I love black people." I mean, if you love them, let them go. Let them go. You know. So it's you know. So the question is, what do we say to them? And I guess the question, the answer is that I think it's most effective to use I statements, to just say, I know what you mean. I for a long time I thought I loved animals too, and then I realized, gosh, I'm actually eating animals. I realized I really wasn't loving animals. So don't ever say to someone, you're wrong. Just say that I woke up and I realized if I really loved animals, then I won't pay someone to confine them in horrible situations and kill them. I will actually want the best for them, which is what love really is.
Wonderful.
Hello, Will.
Hi, Mark. Yeah, good. Thanks. This is Mark Strauss from Cincinnati. I just thought it would be good to hear a couple of words about you're in the middle of a campaign. You want to just quickly tell everybody about it?
Sure. Well, I think it fits in with what you were talking about earlier with the 10 keys. And so we've come up with two books, two companion books to the World Peace Diet. One is the World Peace Diet Cookbook, and one is the World Peace Diet Yoga Book. And within those two books, I think people will find the practical tools to be able to incorporate the 10 keys into their life. And so if they'd like to find out more about them, they can go to our Indiegogo campaign. That's a crowdfunding campaign, Indiegogo.com, and go to World Peace Tipping Point. That's World Peace Tipping Point. You can actually even just put World Peace Tipping Point into your computer search, and you'll find it. And you'll find out more about these two books, the cookbook that I wrote, and of course, Will has is writing the prologue and epilogue, and also the foreword to the World Peace Yoga Book. So they're great tools, and so I invite everyone to take a look at them and to participate. There's so much power in crowdfunding. It's really a grassroots way for us to bring all of these great 10 keys into our lives and to the rest of the world and the planet.
All right, great. Thanks so much.
Oh,
Mark.
and
very much. Yeah.
Well, we'll do. This is very encouraging. We'll have to have you back on for another webinar because people have so many questions. Yes. So I want to take a moment just to thank everyone who's participated in this webinar, and especially to thank Dr. Will Tuttle for his time and just wisdom. I think it was the presentation that you gave was so insightful, and I'd like to also recommend the CD, the meditation CD. I do listen to it very frequently. I think it's especially tuned to animal activists so that we can address our concerns in a spiritual way and also in line with our vegan values. So thank you for that. And
thanks, Lisa. Yeah,
and just for everyone who's online, if you would like to see Will sharing his tips, we have there's these sustainable activism tips, and you can also find them on the events website, and IDA publishes them on our Facebook page every week. So that one is the idausa.org/events, and you can see all of Will's tips. So he's done a video tip for each of these 10 keys, and I just wanted to let you know you'd be able to watch those as well. So I hope that...
And I want to say one quick thing too, Elisa.
Sure.
As far as that World Peace meditation, and also I mentioned the 4 Bahars meditation, if you want, you can just go to iTunes too. They're available as individual tracks, which is a nice way if you want, or as the whole thing. So it's, I think they're good, helpful tools in our activism. Yeah, they're available on iTunes.
Great.
Okay.
Well, that's wonderful. So I think the main thing is just to thank everybody and thank you to Will. And we hope that we'll see you again on our next webinar, which will be happening September 17th. And that topic will be anger, a positive force for activists, a way to use nonviolent communication tools to address our anger. We have several other really interesting webinars coming up. So again, thank you from In Defense of Animals, and thanks to Will. And I hope you all have a wonderful evening.
All right. Go in peace. Bless you all. Much love. Thanks so much for the work you're doing. And together we are making a difference. Much love to you all. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Many blessings.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Thanks.
Good night.